Little Women. Lung.
Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Little Women album, Lung. This is the sophomore full-length effort from New York jazz, noise, improvisational, avant-garde music outfit, Little Women. And all of these genres combined together with some very intricate math rock grooves made this band's debut LP in 2010 really dense, difficult to make heads or tails of, but still some real moments of beauty and some great playing shine through these very tough moments and made this album one of my favorite LPs in 2010. I was absolutely psyched to see the band return with a new full-length, a new piece, if you will, and instead of parsing it out into different tracks like they did on their last full-length, they have presented listeners with one 42-minute long track on this new album. The recording on this new LP feels roughly the same as the last one, more of an emphasis on technique and playing than trippy or distorted effects. It feels very intimate, freewheeling, kind of in the moment, really letting the rawness of the guitar, the tenor and alto saxophones, and the drums speak for themselves. This new LP, just like the band's last full length, is a multifaceted piece for sure, but I guess the question is, do the pieces on this new LP also come together into something that is thrilling, moving, exciting as well? The LP throat was never the most avant-garde thing on the block. It was never meant to be. Artists like John Zorn, I feel like, push weirdness much further. To me, the album throat was kind of a balance between composition and chaos, and for sure Lung also tries to find its own combination of those two characteristics as well. This LP kicks things off with an intro that features very light drums, sparse guitar, serene harmonized saxophone phrasing. It's 7 minutes or so of just rock, jazz, bliss, but then all of a sudden these stringy, lanky, weird, mutated guitar chords come crashing down with drums, and everything in terms of just goes right away. The music all of a sudden becomes very jagged and very cruel to the listener with just its oddness. Then after this comes these long spans of chords and melodies, intervals that it seems like the saxophones dance around in this very tribal, primal way with how they move with one another and interact with one another. It's almost as if they come closer together in terms of harmony and drift apart as the band trips through these pieces. Meanwhile, guitars and drums are just providing very light, quiet backdrops, and the only thing separating these different parts from one another are the occasional jazz freak out that lasts for a very short amount of time and just comes in and jars me for a few moments. It's a sort of cruel joke that the band punches at the listener with these very loud moments like a merciless bully, and then right afterwards the saxophones return to dancing around some musical phrases very quietly again, but each time going for a sort of different musical vibe. Sometimes sounding very soft, pretty, calming, others dissonant, and then again, fiery. This goes on until about the halfway point of the album, where the band really introduces the mother of all freakouts on this entire LP, which is one of the most jaw-droppingly intense moments on this album. To jar the listener feels like it might have been the intention, and to go back to this album and listen to it again and again, these jarring moments become so much less surprising or moving because it's kind of like, you know when the shark's gonna jump out of the water. Though the quiet parts may feel very pretty, it's not like they build or evolve into anything that really sort of touches me in an emotional way. The stringy, jagged guitars that occur earlier in the album end up showing up later as well, bringing somewhat of a theme to this album, some consistency. I'm hearing pieces again, there is kind of a circular quality to this composition the band has pulled together. And maybe people will gravitate toward that more than some of the stuff that the band put on their full-length debut, which can kind of feel like this disjointed, linear musical experience. Even though I like that the band is trying to build this piece with a more consistent structure, I'm not really all that enamored with the pieces that this structure is built out of. It seems like many of these louder, more abrasive moments that come on very suddenly all function on the same techniques and ideas coming from each player. Really the only interesting moment that came out of these abrasive spots on the album was the final ascension of the album, which really hits a high mark in terms of just volume and intensity. Ear-piercing howls coming from the saxes, stuttering guitars, and very busy drums all over the place. It's like this album is trying to oppositely mirror the very friendly beginning that this LP started off with. Honestly, this sophomore full-length didn't really take me on the emotional ride that the debut did. While I'm still into the production, I think the playing is pretty solid, and that the way the band likes to create just a very intimate recording around their stuff, I just think they put a little bit too much of an emphasis on putting parts in this album that would grab the listener and shake them violently, and then just sort of put them back down in their place and, you know, pet them a little bit, and then grab them again and shake them. Meanwhile, in the midst of these moments where they're not being shaken, things are just, you know, feeling all right. Very few spots on this album filled me with wonder, especially from a melodic perspective. I, for the most part, really just stayed intrigued, and that's about it. I'm kind of feeling a light to decent 6 on this thing. If you've given it a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And yeah, that's about it. Anthony Fantano, Little Women, forever.